I've built a lot of watch lists over the years, kid, more than I could ever count, and each one has been a quiet reflection of the trader I was at that moment in time. A watch list isn't just a group of tickers. It's a map, a compass, a snapshot of how you see the market, what patterns you value, what risks you're willing to take, and what opportunities you believe are worth your attention. People think building a watch list is simple: scan for movers, pick the hot names, glue your eyes to the biggest headlines. But that kind of chaos is what turns traders into gamblers. A real watch list isn't built on excitement, it's built on intention. I learned that the hard way. In my early years, my watch lists were bloated, noisy, stuffed with every stock that caught my eye. I tracked everything: tech, energy, biotech, small caps, large caps, things I didn't understand, things I had no business trading. That was the first mistake, believing that more symbols meant more opportunity. More symbols just meant more clutter in my mind. Back then, I'd scroll endlessly, thinking opportunity lived in quantity. But over time, through enough losses to sand down my arrogance, I learned that opportunity lives in clarity. A good watch list is small, focused, intentional, built with a purpose, not a hope. I still remember the first time I built a watch list the right way. I was sitting at my old wooden desk, the morning sun cutting across the room, dust floating in the light like tiny reminders of how long I'd been grinding at this game. I started with the overall market direction. No tickers yet, just the big picture. Was the market trending? Ranging? Breaking down? Breaking out? You see, kid, a watch list without context is like a road trip without knowing where north is. Once I understood the environment, I started filtering. I looked for stocks showing strength when the market was weak, weakness when the market was strong. You can learn a lot about a ticker by how it behaves when everything else is moving in the opposite direction. That's character, that's personality, and personality is priceless. My watch list that day ended up with only 5 names. Just 5, but each one earned its spot. Each one had a story, a structure, a setup, forming like a storm, building over the ocean. One of them was a tech stock forming a tight daily coil. I could almost feel the tension through the screen. Another was a beaten-down name, showing signs of reversal. A third was riding a trend so clean, it looked like a staircase drawn by an architect. That was the day I learned the second rule of a real watch list. Every name on it should deserve your attention. If it doesn't, remove it. No mercy, no attachment. A watch list is a living thing. You prune it, you trim it, you let names fall off, and new ones step in. But the biggest shift in my process came years later, after the 2008 crisis, when volatility became unpredictable, and the market felt like a wounded animal. Jumping, shaking, unpredictable. I started building my watch lists like a hunter heading into the woods. I didn't just look for opportunity, I looked for behavior. Did a stock hold support with conviction? Did it break resistance cleanly? Did it fake out and snap back? Did volume confirm the story or expose the lie? My watch list stopped being collections and became hypotheses. Each ticker was a question. Will this behave the way I expect when the time comes? And if the answer wasn't clear, it didn't make the cut. Every night, before the next session, I'd go through charts, like flipping pages in an old journal. I'd look for compression, because compression leads to expansion. Trends, because clean moves are easier to trade than messy ones. Reversals, because extremes often snap back hard. Breakouts, because momentum speaks loudly if you know how to listen. But here's the real truth. Building a watch list isn't about predicting what will move. It's about preparing for the moment something does move. A good watch list tells you where you should be looking, long before the market starts shouting. I remember a night during the COVID crash when every chart looked like a cliff, panic everywhere, blood on the screens. Headlines screaming doom. But my watch list wasn't built on panic. It was built on structure. And inside that chaos, 2 tickers stood out, calm, steady, forming bases like they were waiting for the world to stop shaking. Those 2 names became some of the best trades of that entire year. Not because I predicted anything, but because I was paying attention long before anyone else cared. Over decades of this routine, I realized the final truth of building a real watch list. You're not looking for opportunities. You're training your eyes to recognize them before anyone else does. That's why I still build them every night. Same ritual, same discipline, same quiet respect for the market. Because somewhere in that list, whether it's 3 names or 15, is the next chapter of my trading story, waiting for me to be ready. And it took me years to understand that the watch list isn't just a tool. It's a promise. Kid. A quiet vow you make to yourself every single night. That you will show up tomorrow with clarity instead of chaos. Intention instead of impulse. Preparation instead of hope. And that promise, more than any setup, any indicator, any piece of news, is what separates a trader who survives from one who burns out long before his potential ever has a chance to grow. Because the truth is, the watch list isn't about predicting the future. It's about building a relationship with the market so you can recognize opportunity the moment it steps out from behind the noise. I learned that the hard way in my early days, when I used to show up every morning unprepared, scrolling through tickers like I was speed reading a dictionary, chasing whatever happened to flash green or red. That kind of trading doesn't just cost you money, it costs you composure, confidence, and clarity. Once I started building real watch lists, the frantic guessing disappeared. I wasn't reacting to the market anymore. I was anticipating it. I remember one morning in particular, years after I'd gotten my process locked in, when the market opened with wild volatility gaps, wicks, fake-outs everywhere. Traders were panicking, chasing, freezing, losing their minds in real time. But I wasn't touched by the chaos. I already knew the only 5 names I cared about. I knew their levels. I knew their behavior. I knew what I would do and what I would not do. That's the power of a watch list built with intention. It closes the door on emotional distraction. It narrows your world to what matters. It protects you from yourself. But the deeper truth came later, after thousands of sessions, thousands of nights repeating the same ritual. I realized that building a watch list wasn't just about finding opportunity. It was about becoming the kind of trader who deserves opportunity. Prepared, patient, focused, honest. Because the watch list will reveal things about you if you pay attention. It will show you when you're grasping for trades that don't fit your style. It will show you when you're forcing setups out of boredom. It will show you when your bias is clouding your judgment. It will show you when your ego is steering your eyes instead of your logic. And if you look closely enough, night after night, you'll begin to see your own psychological fingerprints all over the charts. That's when the real growth begins. Over time, I refined my process until it became second nature. Every ticker on my list had to meet 3 criteria: structure, story, and symmetry. Structure, because a messy chart creates a messy mind. Story, because price always tells you what it's trying to do if you listen closely. Symmetry, because clean levels create clean decisions. And if a ticker didn't meet those 3, no matter how pretty it looked or how loud the hype was, it didn't make the list. That discipline saved me more money than any winning trade ever earned me. But the most beautiful part? Each night, as I built my watch list, I started recognizing something deeper than opportunity. I recognized patterns in the market that echoed patterns in myself. I learned that I gravitated toward momentum when I felt confident, toward reversals when I felt defensive, toward consolidation setups when life outside trading felt chaotic. The market became a mirror. The watch list became the reflection. And through that reflection, I became more honest, more grounded, more aware not just as a trader, but as a man. So when people ask me how I find opportunities, I tell them the truth. You don't find opportunities. You prepare for them. You train your eyes to notice them. You build the discipline to wait for them. And you craft a watch list every single night so that when opportunity finally walks into the room quietly, without announcement, you're already looking right at it. Because at the end of the day, kid, building a watch list isn't about the names you choose. It's about the version of yourself that does the choosing. And once you understand that, You'll never approach the market the same way again, because the watch list stops being a piece of paper or a screen full of symbols. It becomes your anchor, your compass, your focus, your edge, and the first step toward becoming the kind of trader who doesn't just chase opportunity, but actually knows where to.